good morning.
Hmm? Good morning.
My love.
Smells delicious. Think it needs these?
Perfect. Add them in.
Just right. I love cooking with you.
Me too.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Thank you for being here and sharing this moment with us. Today's story is a gentle yet deeply emotional journey about Tieu Lac and a CEO who choose to leave the noise of the world behind and begin a new life together in a newly built stone house. In this story, you'll witness how simple daily care turns into trust, how quiet companionship grows into love, and how two wounded hearts slowly find healing in each other's presence. From the decision to live together, to the CEO's devoted care, and finally to the sweet intoxication of love, their story reminds us that true happiness often comes softly, without force or promises. If you enjoy heartfelt stories about love, healing, and peaceful life moments, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next story. Your support truly means everything to us. After everything they had been through, the decision did not come in a dramatic moment or with grand declarations. It came quietly, almost naturally, on an afternoon when the sunlight fell softly across the unfinished stone walls of the new house. Tieu Lac stood there in silence, her fingers lightly brushing against the cool surface of the stone, as if trying to feel whether this place could truly become a home. The house had just been completed, solid, simple, and built with care. Every stone had been placed with intention, just like the unspoken emotions growing between her and the CEO. For the CEO, this house represented more than a completed project. It was a promise of stability, a space free from the noise of the city and the weight of past expectations. He had chosen stone deliberately, believing that something built to last should be strong enough to endure time, storms, and silence. As he watched Tieu Lac walk slowly through the rooms, he felt a calm certainty settle in his chest. Without realizing it, he wanted this house to be the place where she could finally rest, where she no longer had to be guarded or afraid. The conversation about living together happened without pressure. There were no formal plans, no fixed timelines. One evening, as they sat on the low steps outside the house, the air cool and filled with the scent of earth, the CEO simply said, "You don't have to go back tonight." Tieu Lac looked at him, surprised, her heart skipping for a brief second. She understood what he meant, not as an obligation, but as an invitation to stay, to begin something new in a place untouched by painful memories. At first, Tieu Lac hesitated. Her life had taught her to be cautious, to protect herself by keeping distance. The idea of sharing a space, of allowing someone into her daily life, felt both comforting and frightening. Yet when she looked around the stone house, she felt an unfamiliar sense of safety. The rooms were not extravagant, but they were warm. Sunlight poured through the windows in the morning, and at night, the walls held the day's warmth, creating a quiet sense of belonging. It was nothing like the places she had lived before. This house felt honest, steady, and real. The CEO never rushed her decision. He continued his routine as usual, preparing meals, checking the small details of the house, making sure everything worked perfectly. His calm presence made the choice easier. He did not ask for explanations or promises. Instead, he showed her through actions that this house was meant to be shared, not possessed. Slowly, Tieu Lac realized that living together did not mean losing herself. It meant allowing herself to be supported. The day she officially decided to move in, there was no ceremony. She arrived with only a small suitcase, standing at the doorway for a long moment before stepping inside. The CEO took the suitcase from her hands without a word, as if this was the most natural thing in the world. That simple gesture stirred something deep inside her. For the first time in a long while, she felt that she was not alone in facing life. Living together in the stone house marked the beginning of a quiet transformation for both of them. Mornings became shared moments of silence and understanding, afternoons filled with gentle conversations, and evenings wrapped in peace. The house slowly absorbed their presence, the sound of footsteps, soft laughter, and unspoken comfort. It was no longer just a building, it became a reflection of their growing connection. In choosing to live together, Tieu Lac and the CEO were not declaring love out loud. They were choosing trust, companionship, and the courage to open their hearts. The stone house stood firm around them, sheltering not only their bodies, but also the fragile hope that something beautiful was beginning. In that calm, protected space, both of them sensed that this decision would quietly change their lives forever. Living together in the stone house slowly revealed a side of the CEO that Tieu Lac had never seen before. He was no longer the distant, decisive man known for authority and control. Inside the quiet walls of the house, he became someone attentive, patient, and deeply considerate. His care for Tieu Lac was not loud or dramatic. It existed in the smallest details of daily life, unfolding naturally as if it had always been meant to be that way. Each morning, he woke up earlier than usual, moving quietly so as not to disturb her sleep. He learned her routines without asking, how she liked her tea warm but not too strong, how she needed a few moments of silence after waking up, how sudden noises made her tense without her realizing it. Breakfast was always simple yet thoughtful, prepared with an awareness of her health and comfort. When she noticed these things, she never said anything, but her heart softened a little more each day. Tieu Lac had carried exhaustion for a long time, both physical and emotional. Some days her body felt heavier than her spirit could manage. On those days, the CEO would notice immediately. He never questioned her strength or asked her to explain herself. Instead, he adjusted his pace to hers. If she seemed tired, he gently encouraged her to rest. If she struggled with pain or discomfort, he stayed close, offering quiet reassurance through his presence rather than words. At night, when the air in the stone house turned cool, he made sure the blankets were thick enough, the windows properly closed. He remembered things she herself often forgot: medication times, warm water before sleep, small habits that made her feel safe. When she woke from uneasy dreams, he was there, sitting nearby, speaking softly until her breathing slowed. In those moments, Tieu Lac realized that care did not always need explanations. Sometimes it was simply being there without asking for anything in return. What touched her most was how he respected her boundaries. The CEO never tried to push his way into her emotions. He understood that healing required time. When she chose silence, he accepted it. When she shared fragments of her past, he listened without interruption or judgment. His patience allowed her to speak freely, knowing she would not be misunderstood or pitied. Slowly, the walls around her heart began to loosen. The stone house became a place where Tieu Lac could finally breathe. Under his careful attention, her days grew lighter. She smiled more often, slept more deeply, and felt less afraid of vulnerability. The CEO noticed these changes quietly, never taking credit for them. For him, her comfort was enough. Seeing her regain warmth and color in her life gave him a sense of purpose far greater than any professional success. As days turned into weeks, something subtle shifted between them. Their interactions grew warmer, more intimate, without crossing into anything rushed. A gentle touch to guide her hand, a lingering glance when she laughed, moments of shared silence that spoke louder than words. Tieu Lac found herself looking for him instinctively, feeling reassured simply knowing he was nearby. The care he gave her had planted something deeper: trust, affection, and an unspoken attachment. One evening, as they sat together in the quiet living room, Tieu Lac suddenly realized how safe she felt. The thought surprised her. Safety was something she had long believed was temporary or fragile, yet here, in the presence of a man who asked for nothing but gave so much, she felt steady. The CEO noticed her thoughtful expression and asked gently if she was feeling unwell. She shook her head and smiled, unable to find words for what she felt. In caring for Tieu Lac, the CEO also changed. He learned to slow down, to listen, to value tenderness over control. Without realizing it, he had allowed her into his life just as deeply as he had entered hers. Their days together in the stone house became a quiet testament to how love can begin, not with passion or promises, but with patience, presence, and genuine care. Without any clear beginning, love slowly took shape between Tieu Lac and the CEO, like warmth spreading through stone after a long day of sunlight. It was not sudden or overwhelming, but steady and undeniable. The care they shared, the trust that had grown between them, naturally deepened into something more. Neither of them spoke the word aloud, yet both understood what was unfolding in the quiet rhythm of their days together. In the stone house, their connection revealed itself in subtle ways. A glance held just a little longer than before, a hand brushing against another, no longer by accident. Moments of silence that felt full rather than empty. Tieu Lac found herself smiling without realizing it, her heart lighter than it had been in years. The CEO, too, noticed the change, not only in her, but within himself. He became more present, more attentive, as if every shared moment carried a quiet significance. One evening, as the sky turned golden and the house was bathed in soft light, they sat together near the window, watching the day slowly fade. Tieu Lac leaned slightly toward him, resting her head against his shoulder without hesitation. The CEO stiffened for only a second, surprised by the intimacy, then gently relaxed. He placed his hand over hers, not tightening his grip, simply letting her know he was there. In that simple gesture, both of them felt the shift. This was no longer just care or companionship. It was affection, deep and sincere. The days that followed felt like a gentle dream. They shared small routines that became precious, preparing meals together, tending to the surroundings of the house, walking side by side in the quiet mornings. Laughter came more easily now, soft and unguarded. Tieu Lac spoke more freely, her voice lighter, her expressions warmer. The CEO listened, sometimes teasing her gently, sometimes simply watching her with a look that revealed how deeply he had grown attached. At night, the stone house seemed to hold their happiness, wrapping it in stillness and warmth. They talked for hours about simple things, dreams they had never voiced, hopes they had once believed were unreachable. Tieu Lac realized that with him, she did not feel the need to hide her fears or pretend to be stronger than she was. He accepted her completely, including the fragile parts she had spent years protecting. In return, she offered him something he had rarely allowed himself to receive: emotional closeness without conditions. There were moments when the intensity of their feelings surprised them both. A look would linger too long, a touch would spark a quiet heat, and for a brief second, the world seemed to narrow to just the two of them. Yet neither rushed the moment. They allowed love to grow at its own pace, savoring the anticipation, the sweetness of what was still unspoken. That restraint only deepened the bond between them, making every interaction feel meaningful. One night, as the rain fell softly against the stone walls, Tieu Lac suddenly realized how deeply in love she was. The thought did not frighten her as she had expected. Instead, it brought a sense of peace. She turned to the CEO, her eyes filled with emotion she no longer tried to hide. He met her gaze, understanding immediately. Without words, he drew her into a gentle embrace, holding her as if this was exactly where they both belonged. In that embrace, the world outside faded. The past, with all its pain and uncertainty, felt distant and powerless. What mattered was the present, the warmth of another heartbeat, the certainty of being chosen and cherished. The CEO rested his chin lightly against her hair, closing his eyes as if to memorize the moment. For him, happiness no longer felt like a fleeting concept. It was real, solid, and alive in his arms. Together, in the quiet intoxication of love, Tieu Lac and the CEO found happiness that did not need to be announced. It existed in shared breaths, gentle touches, and the promise of tomorrow. In the stone house they had chosen together, they were no longer two separate souls seeking shelter. They were partners, united by affection, trust, and a love that grew stronger with every passing day.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Lý Tiểu Lạc Review. Vậy là câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã kết thúc tại đây. Nội dung câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã kể về một tình huống rất là thú vị và rất là hấp dẫn. Đó chính là việc CEO và Tiểu Lạc đã cùng nhau dọn về chung sống ở căn nhà mới mà CEO đã xây dựng cho Tiểu Lạc. Đây là một tín hiệu rất là vui và rất là mừng, cho thấy tình cảm giữa CEO và Tiểu Lạc đang tiến triển rất là tốt. Hai người đang chung sống trong căn nhà mới rất là vui vẻ và hạnh phúc bên nhau. Hàng ngày hai người cùng nhau làm việc tại nông trại và cùng nhau nấu ăn cũng như là chia sẻ các khoảnh khắc đời thường với nhau. Đó là một cuộc sống đáng là mơ ước của tất cả các cặp đôi. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn về câu chuyện Tiểu Lạc và CEO sẽ còn được kể ở các video tiếp theo. Các bạn đừng quên bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh subscribe để nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các câu chuyện sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Lý Tiểu Lạc Review nhé. Nếu các bạn thấy video hôm nay hay, hấp dẫn, mới lạ, hãy cho mình xin nút like, share và để lại comment ở dưới video nhé. Mọi ý kiến đóng góp của các bạn sẽ giúp mình cải thiện các câu chuyện mới hay hơn nữa để phục vụ khán giả. Tiểu Lạc và CEO cảm ơn các bạn rất là nhiều vì đã luôn dành tình cảm cho kênh của Tiểu Lạc và CEO. Tiểu Lạc and CEO, thank you so much. Please continue support share channel Lý Tiểu Lạc Review everyone. Thank you so much. Bye bye.